welcome to Slush. Very nice to see you here.
Thank you. It's great to be back. I need to do something
It's on.
Check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's great to be back. Thank you. This is my second Slush.
Yeah, you've been in Finland for quite a while, I understand. 11 years at Nokia, right?
11 years at Nokia, but I started in San Diego. I've been in Finland for 8 years.
Yeah.
So I saw the future with this Linux-based operating system and came to Finland to be a part of that in 2006.
Okay, so you were 6 years at MeeGo, and that's when you jumped to Finland after.
No, I came to Finland to be part of the project that became MeeGo. So it was called Open Source Software Operations. We made actually 8 products, the first of which was, or the last of which was the Nokia N9, and before that we had the Nokia N900 as well.
And then you developed MeeGo, and then out of that, the spin-off Yola, if you want to call it a spin-off, or OS Sailfish.
It's not a spin-off in a traditional sense. We made a new startup, and we made a business plan, and we got funding, and we saw that there was an opportunity with this open source operating system that never before have two huge companies made something so big and put so much investment and then abandon it in the open source world. So after that we saw, okay, we have the right people, we know how to make products, the asset is there, so let's go make our own products.
Was it like an emotional thing that you had been building this beautiful thing and then they just scrap it?
It was heartbreaking. But the good news was that we got to finish the N9. And a lot of people really liked the N9. It was, I think, a really classic product. So, and after that, Nokia was encouraging people to go and make new startups. A lot of the startups that you've seen here today and last year were people that would have worked for Nokia for the rest of their lives, but instead they went out and they did something new.
So would you say maybe inside Nokia you were a sort of example or something like that, that you showed them that this is another way to do stuff as well, that take this and make something bigger out of it?
I think a lot of people went out afterwards, and Nokia had a program to help people learn. What does it take to make a business plan? How do you approach investors? What kind of things do you need to do to take an idea that you have that you're passionate about and do something with that?
How much did you have these kind of not just MeeGo but other projects internally in Nokia, like Nokia Maps are really great, but nobody really knows about them. And other large-scale projects or even smaller-scale projects that could have turned out something but never did. Was it very common, or was this like a gem that you picked out of there?
Well, let me put it differently. Let's go forward to what Yola did. So when we were starting, it was very difficult to get these big manufacturers and chipset makers to take us seriously because we were so small. So what we ended up doing was we had a little side research project that was, what if we just took Sailfish and we made it run on any Android device? So we had this little research project on the side, a couple of guys, and then as it turned out, we got to the point where the guys we were going to make the phone with, the chipset manufacturer, basically went away. So, a huge company decided they're just not in that business anymore. So we had this little research project on the side, and we were able to turn that into a new architecture that actually became a huge strength for us. So I think all companies need to have, you can't have everybody going after one target. You have to have a few little things in the research department because that's where innovation continues to happen.
Do you think, because you're a big open source guy, do you think if you could have, for example, I don't know, printed out these parts or tried some other stuff easier without having this hassle of really starting to first produce them or look for the producers and get their attention and everything, do you think it would have been like faster? What's going to happen in the future?
You mean for the hardware? Yeah. Well, the thing that we learned is there's no small players in consumer electronics, really. There's no small players in smartphones. So we realized that, we are a small company. We want to be a great company. We don't want to be a huge company. But we do need to be able to scale. And to be able to do that, unfortunately, there's one place in the world that all of the factories are. So we're legally the manufacturer for our device. It's made just like any other large company would make a smartphone today. But, there are things that are coming, like this other half. So will we have 3D printable version of the other half, where you can take your idea and your innovation and link it to a touch interface with a computer in it and connectivity. So that's exactly the kind of thing where open source hardware, I think, is going to go, where you can take something and add your ideas on it and make a new business.
So you recently did a crowdfunding or initial sales for Yola. What are next steps?
The next steps really, or the most exciting part is, I want to know what you think about our phone. I want to know what you think about our phone. When people actually start to own this, and it's not just stopping me on the street and asking, can you show it to me? When you actually trust it every day to be, your connection with the digital world, that is the next step for us to really, what do you think? And it's not necessarily even about what you think on the first day or the 5th day or the 10th day. It's also how we respond to it. So what is the next thing that you want? Is there something that's missing? Is there something that you don't like? Maybe there's something that doesn't work. It's going to be, how we respond to that and how we move forward. Because when you buy our phone, you're not just buying something from a faceless corporation. You're buying something from your neighbors and your friends and people that you can connect with on the internet and you can connect with, even personally. So you are joining our community when you buy this device. And it's really important that, you say what you think and that we respond to that.
How active is your community around this now that you brought this up? Sort of customer development might be pretty hard for you guys. I guess you just round up the people who are really, really interested.
Well, we started from a community that when Nokia was making this MeeGo MeeGo exercise, a community started. And the interesting thing about that community was they did not accept the closed parts. So when there was something that was closed that was not being given out, they would go and create open source parts of that or integrate something else. So then that community, a couple of years ago, they didn't have a home any longer. And we weren't in a position to say, hey guys, we're over here yet. So a few months later we said, hey, we're over here, and all of a sudden they started running. But the interesting thing in our day and age, like if you talk about a small company that needs to market globally, it's 23 steps to go viral to get to 1 million. We talk about the viral effect all the time. If you tell 2 people and they tell 2 people, it only takes 23 times and it's already 1 million people, and then it goes off the charts after that. So there's a huge opportunity. If we keep working together, then we can create something that's bigger than all of us.
How many people do you have right now? How many orders did you get in the, just pure maybe orders, not from people who are involved?
The pre-orders was a very good campaign, so we're pleased with what the results were.
Okay, great. You mentioned the perils of being a small caller and then having to produce something. Did you get manufacturing problems, as in delays and stuff like that, and how did that affect your... No, nothing.
No. We got a really good manufacturing partner, and when you have a company of a certain size and everybody can still basically understand what's going on and what is needed. So we did learn how to make products. This is my actual 13th product. I talk about the first 12 all the time, but this was the 13th one that I've worked on. And if you have an idea and a startup and you're hiring people, you look for people that share your vision, people that have the greatest talent in the world in their area. You don't accept anything else, and you have to also understand they have the great talent in their area. They better have talents in other areas as well, because otherwise, somebody's going to need to pick the thing up off the floor when it falls. And most importantly, have the same attitude, like people that want to come in and believe in this and want to do it for what it is. If the work is its own reward, then the success will follow. You don't have to worry about that, but you have to get up and want to do that thing every day.
You're from the States, you've lived in San Diego and everything, and then Finland, and you decided to stay here with your team. Is this the best place to do open source, or just got grounded here, or?
I love to be in Finland. So everything works, people are honest, people are real. I talk about the education system all the time, creating a great pool of talent, and then it draws people in from around the world. So I think if you want to make a startup, this is the best place in the world to be, because people will give everything that they have for that, and then they go home and they have a balanced life, and then they come in the next day and they give everything that they have. So.
Yeah. Wow. What about, is it difficult to find talent here? You mentioned that schools make good talent and everything like that. You're doing something very different than maybe there was. Maybe you found some people from Nokia, old work colleagues, mates.
Well, the people that came to this country to do stuff like this, this is some of the hardest stuff in the world that you can do. It's the most integrated electronic appliance, that's ever been made. So if you have people that can do this, they can do anything, and you can see that around here at Slush. Yeah. So no, this is the best talent pool in the world.
What about now that we're here at Slush? You said it's your second year. What's one thing you want to do, or you're gonna do, or your highlight, or something like that?
I was actually going to pitch somebody. There was this these sensor guys over here. So sensor trend I went looking for today because I have a diabetic fiance, and they have an application for diabetics over there. So the healthcare section over there, I would encourage everybody to go have a look, because there's a lot of different ways to make somebody's life better and somebody's world better. And sometimes we think about something like this. It's like somebody's first internet connection in the world, many people, is going to be through a phone, maybe even not a smartphone, but there's so many other ways that you can make a difference in the world. And the whole world is geared against accumulating wealth for some people. It should be about accumulating goodness for humanity. So there's so many ways that you can do that, and I think the health section over there is a great example of that.
Yeah, and health and mobile are totally connecting with each other, so that's going to be another big merge, what we're going to see in the future. That's amazing. Have you always had this benevolence in yourself that you want to do something better for humanity and want to pursue something bigger, or how did that?
I think everybody struggles.
Strike.
Everybody struggles with this, and if you're not happy with what you're doing, find something that you love and do that. And not everybody learns that. It took me a long time sometimes, and I've had jobs and products and programs that I worked in that I really loved, and with great people, and sometimes it gets really hard. But if it's something that you really want to do, then it's its own reward. And
what's your secret trick to keep you on track if sometimes it's a really bad week and everything's not good? What's the thing you pick yourself up with? It's just a love for what you're...
Well, talk to people.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like, frustration, for example, or things that are uncomfortable or anything else. When you start to talk to people, you find out that they're thinking the same things that you are, or maybe they're thinking it in a different way. So somebody asked me, what is Yola's vision in 3 words the other day, and it came out immediately. It was like, people build value. It's like, that's what it's all about. As long as that's why we talk about love and passion all the time. It's like that's how these things happen.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to say.
So I feel like I'm shouting,
I
but
don't know.
I'm really
such
excited.
Good people here on stage. No, everybody's good who's on stage. That's really amazing. And that you can pursue these things. What would you say to yourself if you were just starting a startup right now in Finland in the beginning? Let's say 5 years back. What would you tell yourself now?
So if I was going 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think that we learned it as we went along. It's like it's always about putting people and interactions over other things. So if you create an environment where people can really do things together and they're encouraged to, like, if you tell somebody what to do, the best you can hope for is you get what you asked for. A lot of times you don't get what you asked for. But if you ask people, what do you think we should do? And you create an environment where people can talk about these things, and if you have the right people, they'll even reach a consensus. They don't have to always agree, but they'll say, okay, this is the best thing that we have together, and that's what we're going to go do. So it's always about putting people first.
Is that how you lead your team as well? Or in software?
Yeah, it's about asking. It's like, if you say that there's a problem, it's like, well, okay, how do you think we should solve it? Or how do you think we should solve it? It's like, you shouldn't, have to come to me, one guy, when you're the greatest experts in the world in this stuff. It's about helping people to find their own solutions and to find the best solution, rather than coming and say, yeah, I know exactly how to do that. Do it like this.
Wow. Open source. How did you get involved in open source originally? Was it also this thought of yourself of doing something greater? Because I see a pattern here that's very much.
It took a while
linked.
to learn, actually. My very first brush with open source was in the 90s. And I had a project to build an interface for something, and I went and found out that someone had basically already done it. And it was free, and it was there, and it's like I didn't understand. It's like, wow, this thing is already there, and I can go and work on a product with that. And then I started to realize that, okay, the next thing that you need to do when you work with open source is you need to contribute. Because what people do is, do they use open source or are they open source? So if you use open source, you're maybe not always contributing the things that you're making, but you can get people to help implement your idea by building enablers in the open, but you can still hold your idea. So you don't have to give everything away, but you can still build things and open them up and basically give away the enablers for things. So as that moved along and Linux became more popular and started to take over things, then it was like, okay, the future is going to be in a mobile Linux operating system that really is open, where people can contribute in parallel, not just contribute and then wait for somebody to throw something over the wall and break everything they've just done.
Do you have plans of making this available for sort of all categories of people around, like purchasing power? As in, like, it's an open source device and everything like that. Do you plan on putting like CAD models online that somebody can build it themselves, or make it as cheap as possible to get it to every market?
It is a really tricky thing to have a business based upon a huge open source asset. That there's always a balance about making sure that we understand how to give it away and how to still be able to. I mean, if we weren't selling the phones, we wouldn't be able to afford to do this. So, and then what happens next? So nobody pays for Android. And when you don't pay for something, does it really give you a sense of value? So it takes a transformation to understand that if you want something better than what you have, sometimes there's a cost associated with it. So when we're talking to manufacturers and they're like, well, I can get Android for free, it's like, well, you also get their AdWords and their services and their maps and all of those things for free. So what about your services? What about your business model? What about, operators used to have their own services, and then Apple and Android kind of just squeezed that out of the way. And now you used to be able to make an application and be able to make a lot of money doing that. So now it's becoming more difficult because there's so many other applications, and it's getting away from just buying an application to create a new application that connects a user with something. And then if there's a revenue pipeline there, then you can sit in the middle. Or if there's not, you can create a user base by providing new ways for people to connect together, and that builds company value. So there's so many business models to look at rather than just selling software anymore.
You mentioned hardware being more democratized in these as well. Do you see a future where people can, you said that you could put your own components, for example, to this phone. Do you see where people could shop components like apps, as in, I have diabetes, I need to get this thing on my phone, get me a pin that I can test it with, or some hardware components as small bits that you can personalize your phone?
Yeah, I mean, the way that you personalize devices now is you have stuff that hangs off the side of them a lot of times. So, or maybe something that snaps around it. So we took this other half idea and we're making a developer's kit so you can develop new hardware that extends the device in ways that we haven't even thought of yet. So everybody asks about the keyboard. Are we going to make it first, or is a third party going to make it first? I don't know yet. But there will be sensors and like weather systems, and somebody made a carbon monoxide detector, and all kinds of things that we haven't even thought of. But we want to provide a platform where this kind of new innovation can happen. So and nobody's really doing that right now. I don't know why it's taken so long.
For openness and love, please thank Marc Dillon for being our guest today.
Thank you.